Hi humans, Walter Jackson here from the Five Jacksons Journey. Today we are starting our first in a series of reviews of every state that we visit, and we're going to start with Alabama. No particular order, it's just kind of whatever I feel like when I'm editing the videos. We felt that not a lot of our foreign friends would know much about every state. They might know quite a bit about the US from watching movies, but that would really be centered around California or New York, the kind of better known states, whereas Alabama would fall in the category of lesser known states. And particularly myself, all of my ideas or misconceptions that I had about the place was wrong. So starting off is, what kind of idea did I have about Alabama? Well, whenever I heard the name, I would conjure up images of Deliverance and kind of see scenes of rednecks chasing people around the woods, or some kind of image about people being not educated and living in swamps. So I guess that's kind of honestly what I thought of the state and what came up in my mind. So if you want to see what we actually learned ourselves about the state, traveling through it for 3 weeks, stick around and we'll show you what we've seen. Let's start with a map of Alabama. It is a deeply southern state surrounded by other deeply southern states. Here is a more detailed map with the Sharpie showing the exact location of Alabama. It is about the size of Greece, with a population equal to New Zealand. For my South African friends, that is roughly the size of the Western Cape and a population of Mpumalanga. Now, please indulge me as I ramble off a few interesting facts we learned about Alabama. First of all, Deliverance. It has nothing to do with Alabama. It was set and filmed entirely in Georgia. Secondly, Alabama has the largest space center in Huntsville. So they have a ton of rocket scientists actually in Alabama. And if your nerdy boss said he went to space camp, that's probably where he went. Third, wrestling a bear is illegal in Alabama. Apparently it became such a popular pastime that the state decided to make it illegal. It's the only state that has an alcoholic drink as its state drink, which also is unsurprising that it was the first state where they ever dialed 911. In a 2019 ACS survey of the richest states in the US, Alabama came in at number 45 out of 50, with a median income around $28,000. And I have to say, we saw a lot of evidence of poverty as we traveled through the state. Okay, so enough silly facts. What did we actually see and do in the state? Well, we traveled through the 4 major cities, Birmingham being the largest, even though it only has a population of just over 200,000. So they're not completely boring. I certainly wouldn't call it vibrant. Then we went to Montgomery, the state capital. Similar to other state capitals we've seen, not really very interesting in the global scheme of things. Then Huntsville, with the aforementioned space camp being the only really interesting thing there. And then Mobile, Alabama, where they had the first Mardi Gras in 1703, more than 100 years before Louisiana and New Orleans became the 18th state in 1812. So our preference really is to just quickly go through the city, see as much as we can, but kind of focus our attention on the rural areas because we want to be out in nature and see more of the actual state, as opposed to a city which could be very similar to other cities. Our favorite campsite was at the Corinth Recreation Area. It's near a small town called Double Springs. It's a state park that sits on a massive lake. The campsites were quite spacious and very secluded. You could hardly see the RV with the drone. The area was quite beautiful, so every day after school we'd get out and go and explore. We'd get onto our paddle boards and get out on the lake, or we'd drive around and go and see the local sites. We also found a nice restaurant close by on the lake where we would go and sit and work if the internet in the RV failed. And we spent a really lovely week in this area. We also met quite a few interesting people in the area. One day when I was out filming some of the sites, I came across a quaint little small church in the woods. So I stopped and I started filming it, and some random guy just drove past, turned around, stopped and asked if I wanted to go inside. So I said, yeah, please, and he promptly took out the key for the church under the kind of secret hiding place, and he let me in.
We have a good time, you know, it's all you know, we just
And do people still dress up here, like in suits and ties, to come to church? Well, that's all you need. Can I show? So this is what you wear. You can wear anything in church.
yeah, just I mean, you know, wear overalls.
Another thoroughly interesting chap was our neighbor in the campsite. He was from the Cherokee tribe, and a couple of nights he came over with some firewood and he sat at our campsite and he taught the kids about the customs and life of the Indian tribe in the area.
Cherokee tribe. They were probably the most intelligent tribe of the Indians. They actually had the first written language. I'm sorry?
Did your tribe ever have a war?
Sure, all of it. The Cherokees and the Creek, which is the Creek that live in South Alabama, they were mortal enemies.
Yes, I think all tribes had a mortal.
Right.
With every video, we will end the state review with our likes and dislikes. There's a lot that we liked about Alabama. Quite a few people told us it was just a drive-through state and there wasn't much to see, and I would agree with that in the cities, but there's a lot of beautiful places out in the countryside, and if you enjoy nature, then it's definitely a state that you should go and visit. The second thing we really liked about Alabama was how friendly and welcoming the locals were. From the shops to the restaurants, everybody was quite friendly. Now for our 47 dislikes of Alabama. There's only really two, I'm only kidding. First of all, what I disliked was my own ignorance about the state. I felt I did the locals a big injustice by having this preconceived idea, and it was completely different when we got there. And the second dislike is really, we only disliked that we didn't have more time to spend in the countryside of Alabama, so we definitely going back next year when we loop around back down to the south in the winter. So between the cities and the countryside, the rocket scientists and the rednecks, Alabama scores a very respectable 4 out of 7. So that's our kind of foreigner's perspective of Alabama. I hope you learned a few interesting things about the state. And I hope you join us next week when I think I'm going to review the state of Tennessee.